Let's have a quick listen to Boris yesterday.
I'm obviously concerned by the findings of Lord Dyson's report. I'm very grateful to him for what he's done. I can only imagine the feelings of the royal family, and I hope very much that the BBC will be taking every possible step to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again.
I thought a very mild statement from the Prime Minister about the Bashir scandal at the BBC. When it first unfolded on Thursday, when Lord Dyson's independent report came out, and then later Panorama investigated itself in a rather excoriating way, the ministers, government ministers, Oliver Dowd and various others, were taking quite a hard line on the BBC. As that's it, right, it's got a root and branch reform. It's time to have a serious look at the licence fee, all of that. By yesterday, Boris taking a much milder line, essentially saying, and I personally find this rather irritating, we can allow the BBC to sort itself out.
Yeah, well, I think that's tactics and politics, isn't it? I mean, because everyone expects the government to use this as a stick to beat the BBC with, because they know that a lot of Conservative MPs don't like the BBC very much and want to use this as a chance to finally get rid of the licence fee. But they've lost that argument, and I don't think this is going to change. This is going to change things, to be honest. I think governments will always have a difficult relationship with the BBC, and you could almost sense the glee in the Prime Minister's tone there, because it just gives him the upper hand, because he can lecture the BBC about impartiality and how bad it is at regulating itself, which just means that the BBC is on the defensive, which is precisely where the government wants it.
I think there are two factors that dictate the way politicians approach the BBC. One is if they are too critical, they fear the BBC may round on them, start giving them a hard time, project a bad image of them. And secondly, and I think Boris was guilty of this yesterday, they labour under the delusion that the BBC is endlessly popular around the country. Right now, to proceed on the basis that everybody loves the BBC, I think would be a profound political mistake.
No, I don't think you're right, Kevin. I
knew you'd say that.
Everybody does love the BBC.
No, they don't, John. Not now. They hate it right now. Let's get real.
No,
Let's get real. They hate the BBC.
Your listeners and your friends, Kev, are a bit of a...
Yeah, my friend Prince William, he's not too keen on it, is he?
No. Okay, but I think if you look at the majority of the population, they all love...
Rubbish. Absolute rubbish, John.
Line of Duty was a BBC production and everybody loved it. I mean, I don't know what all the fuss is about myself. It's not the sort of thing I watch.
No.
But it's something people are grateful for, and everybody, I think, senses that if you didn't have the BBC, our media culture would be worse. And I think that's what keeps the BBC going, and I'm afraid it's going to carry on.
I'll tell you what is good, John. That now that they had to axe the news of the world, it's good that the BBC has sort of seen a vacancy and got involved in that sort of phone tapping style activity, isn't it?
Well, it was 25 years ago. Kevin.
Oh, come on, John. This is a potentially existential scandal. It's probably going to cause the BBC a lot of problems. There is a review next year of the Charter, and then in 2027 the Royal Charter is re-granted. If the BBC hangs on to its £159.50 a year licence fee payout, I'm a Chinaman. It's not going to happen.
Well, you might have said that last time, and in the end, everyone tiptoes up to the edge of the abyss and looks over the side, and they decide they don't really want an American-style media environment. And
I do.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, there's certainly a minority view, but I just don't think that is going to be a majority yet, and I don't think this is going to change things. I mean, yes, the BBC is shockingly bad at taking responsibility for when things go wrong. We saw that over the whole Andrew Gilligan business.
Absolutely.
Although heads did roll then. I mean, the chair and the director general both resigned.
Yes.
Quite right. So, But this was 25 years ago.
Heads will roll on this. There's no doubt about that. Tony Hall seriously has to consider his position at the National Gallery. One of the executives involved in that abysmal, disgraceful cover-up that the BBC did about Bashir had to resign from Ofcom, the broadcasting watchdog, yesterday, and I think others will follow. This will not pass without blood being spattered on the walls.
No, I think you're probably right. Although most of that blood has either moved on or died. It is a bit late now to shut the stable door.
Yes. Let's move on. Labour. I'm very interested in Mr. Burnham, Andy Burnham. He's definitely on manoeuvres. He launched his column, his newspaper column, not in the Manchester Evening News this week, but in the London Evening Standard. How about that?
Yeah. Well, he hasn't given up, has he? He's already had 2 goes at the Labour leadership, and I think he's fine, but I just don't think he's the answer to Labour's problems, and I don't think he's any more the answer to Labour's problems than Keir Starmer is. So, I think he can continue to sort of position himself. Diane Abbott, suggested that he might be the candidate of the campaign group left. But
I bet Andy was grateful for that endorsement.
Well, no, I think he was, because
I see. I can't take your point. Yeah.
I think if he can present himself as a broad-based candidate, but I just don't think that's going to work. I don't think it's going to succeed. I think the reasons why the party didn't choose him on the previous occasions still stand. So I think he's doing a very fine job as Mayor of Greater Manchester.
I rather liked his column. What did you think?
I haven't read it. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it was very sort of olive branchy to London, to say that he used to live here, he loves London as much as he loves Manchester. So it was come one, come all, vote for me. He's definitely on manoeuvres, but you don't think that will result in Burnham taking over from Keir Starmer anytime soon, or indeed ever?
Well, no, I just don't see the way in which the Labour Party gets rid of Keir Starmer before the next election. Maybe if things get really bad, something will happen. But it requires a leadership challenge, and then it requires Andy Burnham to be in the House of Commons, and he's not. And I think that's going to be very tricky. So, if Labour loses the Batley and by-election, we'll get endless more commentary about how the party's lost its way and all the rest of it. But I cannot see any simple answer to the Labour Party's problems, and I think the party just has to wait and show some strategic patience.
How do you think Keir Starmer's been doing since the debacle of the Hartlepool disaster? He's sort of basically kept his head down, hasn't he? Was that a wise policy?
Well, I got into trouble with you, Kevin, before the Hartlepool election by saying I thought Keir Starmer was doing a heroic job as Labour leader and had done a marvellous job in his first year.
Well, you're one to say things like that, aren't you? That and the BBC is wildly popular.
Yes. Well,
no. But seriously, what do you think? Clearly. No one expected Hartlepool to be quite so bad for Labour, and indeed the election generally was not exactly a triumph. And it seems that his policy, classic Keir, ever since, has been, basically to do nothing.
Well, I think it's really knocked the wind out of his confidence. I think he's shown a slight lack of judgment in the way that he's responded to it. Because when stuff like that happens, you do have to just insist that everything's going well and point to the things that were good results on the 6th of May, because Labour did okay in one or two places. You could have constructed a message that the party was on its way back, but instead he completely made a mess of moving Angela Rayner, and that absolutely distracted everything and caused people to question his judgment and his political ability.
A friend of mine was involved in the campaign for Labour in Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, and they when they got the results, they were stunned. They said, "Oh, we've won. Now what do we do?"
Well, exactly. It wasn't. In places across the south of England, like the so-called West of England mayor.
You mean the solid red wall constituency of Chipping Norton?
Well, absolutely. I mean, and these are strange places. I mean, the Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. I mean, that's Cambridgeshire, and the west of England is Bristol and Bath. Ridiculous names they've got, but Labour won them both. And the Cambridgeshire thing was interesting because the Tory candidate actually got more first preferences, and Labour won it on the second count, which is a system that the Conservative government's going to abolish now.
Yes, I mean it is strange, isn't it, that as you say, you've got places like Bath, Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, Chipping Norton, they're now Labour, and then you've got all those places in the north that are turning blue. What's going on?
Well, it's the great class inversion, isn't it? I mean, Labour is becoming the southern middle class party, and the Conservatives are becoming the northern working class party. It's an absolutely extraordinary turnaround. And so far, Boris Johnson's been able to manage that transition far better than any Labour leader, because of course you had Jeremy Corbyn, who of course idolises a sort of mythical version of the English proletariat. And yet it was under him that the party became much more middle class than it's ever been. And actually his policies were all about handing huge subsidies to the middle class, the free tuition and all the rest of it. And Keir Starmer's got a real task on his hands to try and reverse that, or decide whether the Labour Party should just go along with it and just go along with being a middle-class Liberal Party.
I heard, just to conclude, John, I heard Jeremy Corbyn this week was asked, did he have any regrets about his long career and his period as Labour leader. He said, I'm with Frank Sinatra on this one. Regrets? I've had a few. But then again, too few to mention. Too few to mention! I tell you, give me a few hours, Jeremy. I can fill you in on the regrets you ought to have. John, fantastic stuff. Thank you. Always enjoy this. John Rentoul, the chief political commentator of The Independent. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and this is Talk Radio.
Across the